Greetings, everyone. We are so overjoyed that you decided to spend your afternoon with us. You bring your energy out of love, and we are going to give a big welcome to our brother Ras Ben. He is for those of us who are in the healing world, he is a big guru. And today was the first time that I met him. He came into my living room and I was like a little kid. But the knowledge that this brother has imparted into our community all across this continent has been very powerful and enlightening. And so it is our pleasure, both my partner and myself, and Peter Lionheart, who didn't want to talk to you guys today, to bring him forward. So if you would just join me in welcoming the guru, Ras Ben.
Oakland. Feels very good to be out here on the west side. This is something that I have been intending for like years. You know, the reprint of what's happening. Reprint of a book, Rocks of Ages, occurred in '08. And in 2008. And really from that point, I've been saying like, I want to build community with folks in Cali around me, you know? And yeah, it took about 5 years, close to 5 years to make it happen, you know? And the help of Sister Ifa Duque, Brother Peter Lionheart, also my good brother Natty Rebel, you know, kind of able to make it happen, so I'm very thankful. And I'm thankful that you came out to hear what I have to share. And for those that aren't aware, I'm the scribe of Rocks of Ages, which is the first, what you might say, culturally centered look at crystals and sacred stones, you know, looking at how ancient cultures of the Nile Valley and the Americas, other parts of the world, how stones were used in them times, and then kind of bringing it ancient future. You know, how can we apply some of those things in these times? It's a different read. It's not designed to be like an encyclopedia reference, like an A to Z, A for Azurite, B for Barite, you know, C for Chrysocolla. It's not really set up like that. What I ultimately set up to do is to awaken the earth keeper inside of you, you know, because I feel like because we're made of the earth element, we've all worked with that earth element at some point, and that's in our DNA, you know. So it's about awakening that part that's inside of you, you know, so that you can really tap the living book, the living reference, you know. So you come across a stone, you don't even know its name, right? But through your inner connection and inner relationship and knowing the principles of the mineral nation, you can discern what are the powers in that stone and what does it have to hold for you, you know? So that's kind of the intention of Rocks of Ages, you know? You might not read it cover to cover. You might pick up a portion, penetrate it, let it awaken something in you, and then, you know, So, because I've heard, a lot of different feedback from folks, and that's one that I heard. So, if you're not familiar with it, that's like kind of the foundation of my works. It's funny, we've been talking about identity. How do we identify ourselves? Sister called me guru. I wouldn't say that. Really, I would say I'm a humble servant. That's the title I wear, that I feel defines my purpose the best. I'm a humble servant that serves in many capacities. An obedient instrument. Whatever mission the Creator puts me on, I'm on that mission. And this, I think, this experience speaks most to the what's in my heart as far as that purpose. This was in 2003 at a Spiritual Unity of the Nations gathering where different ones from around the world came together to offer prayer for, planetary oneness. And after I shared my prayer, a bird came and landed on my crown,
Wow.
for everyone to witness, So, I share that as like an introduction of my works. And I'm also an earth keeper. I have many sacred treasures that I'm custodian of, that I use in healing, doing crystal body works. And I just really work by donation. In doing these works, I can't charge, but this stone, which is on the cover of the book, is a very sacred and powerful stone. It's really it's an angel incarnated stone. You can see the face, the locks, the eyes. This stone generates its own heat. It'll just be warm. All the other crystals on the table are cool. This one is warm. It emits tones, lights from time to time. And it changes too. The face changes. And it really speaks to the living element of crystals. We want to talk about that. As we move forward, that that is one reality with the crystals, that it's still life. So that's kind of a introduction of my works, and we're just going to move into a real brief reason. What is a crystal? Look at it from a couple different angles. Because when we really talk about what is a crystal, like the textbook definition of a crystal is any matter that has organized molecular structure. Okay, so liquids can be crystals. Air, gases can be crystals. As long as the molecules are an organized molecular structure, that's a crystal. Okay, gaseous crystal is plasma. So like the ionosphere, and even the blood plasma in our body, the plasma in the sun, it's a gaseous crystal. But when most people say crystal and talk about crystal, we're talking about elements of the earth. And most often when we say crystal, we're speaking of quartz, because quartz is composed of silicon dioxide, silica being the most abundant element in the crust of the earth, And the thing with crystals is the pattern that is created, the pattern that the molecules are arranged in is reflected in the shape of the crystal, So when you see a crystal and you notice it has facets and comes to terminations, a lot of times one is going to interpret like, oh, that they were cut and polished, you know. But crystals are actually, you know, cut by nature. And here's some examples of quartz. And so the thing is, if we were able to get like a microscope, electron microscope, and take a picture of one molecule of this crystal, that one molecule would look like the entire crystal, right? So what the molecules do is they come together in such a way that they replicate themselves on a grander scale, right? So there's a microcosmic, macrocosmic relationship between crystals and the molecules that make them up, you know? So here's some other examples of, these are all in the quartz family, right? So here's some like schematics, like giving us a visual of what organized molecular structure might look like, as opposed to a random molecular structure, right? So let's use that silica dioxide, for example, which is quartz, right? When it's in its organized state, you have quartz. When it's in its amorphous state, silica dioxide, you have glass, right? So glass and quartz are made of the same elements. The difference is how are the molecules structured, right? Another analogy we could use is with water, frozen water. Water can freeze in one of two ways. It can have a random molecular structure and be like ice and take whatever form we freeze it in, right? Just like glass, we can melt glass into whatever form we desire, right? Or water can be frozen in like a snowflake, which is crystallized water. And you notice the snowflake reflects the pattern and symmetry of the organized molecules, you know, the organized water molecules. So here's some other examples of random versus organized molecules, right? And now, why is that important? Because organized molecular structure creates energy potential. Organized molecular structure gives a material energy potential, or the ability to do work, the ability to generate, conduct, transmit something, okay? So that's the power of crystals. All of our modern technology is based on that power. All of our cell phones, our computers, you can't name a modern technological gadget that's not computer-based, okay? The CDs, DVD players, when you see that red light shining on the disc, that's light moving through ruby crystals, you know? Your cell phone has denatured quartz chips in it, you know? So, sure. So, all crystals have some energy potential, right? And our modern, like I said, our modern technology, that's what it's all based on, okay? So now, I kind of mentioned that any matter can be crystalline, okay? So now, depending on what the elements are, right, where it grows, what conditions it's meeting, you know, the heat and the pressure, various conditions, they're going to form into one of 12 crystal types. So just like humanity, just like there's, you know, 12 general types of humanity defined by the zodiac, the 4 elements, 3 qualities, right? Got the 12 signs of the zodiac. You also have 12 crystal types, okay? And these are the 12 crystal types. I'm not going to read them, but I will break down some of the complex names. Pentagonal Dodecahedron means that the crystal is going to have a 5-sided face and 12 faces. Okay, so an example of this would be garnets, right? A scalenohedron means all sides are unequal. So some calcites, the calcite gold, we saw one today. It's the, what are they? The golden what?
Stellar beam.
The stellar beams. Those are scalenohedrons. No side is equal. No two sides are equal. You know? Rhombic dodecahedron means that it's 12. It's got 12 faces, but the faces are rhomboids, you know, like 4-sided shapes that may or may not have equal sides. And I think, yeah, you know, octahedron means 8-sided, tetrahedron means 4-sided, right? So all of these crystal types, you know, it's good like our relationship with the crystals can be like a rabbit hole. It's how deep you want to go. If you can keep it on the level of just your intuitive spirit, right? Like, all right, this feels good. I vibe with it. I'm in tune. It's telling me like how it wants to be, you know, used, how it wants to work with me. Or you can penetrate certain levels of it. And this is one, knowing what crystal type it is, you know, and when you meditate on those crystal types, you can gain insight, you know. If you're working with a pyramidal crystal, like you can kind of intuit the powers that that's going to have for you, you know. If you're working with a dodecahedron, a 12-sided crystal, that's real complex. You know, you can kind of intuit like, yeah, this is going to help me be really multifaceted. See things from many angles, you know? So, this is one thing we can meditate on with our crystals, like what crystal type it is, right? Here's some examples. So, magnetite, which is really nature's only magnet, okay? That and lodestone. It forms in octahedrons, which are like 2 pyramids placed base to base, you know? Here are various calcites. This is optical clear calcite, which is a rhombohedron, right? So like every side is a rhombus, a 4-sided shape that sides may or may not be equal, right? Here's the stellar beam calcite, that's scalenohedron. No sides are equal. This is the 6-sided pyramid. Quartz tends to be 6-sided pyramidal. Every quartz you get, if you count, it's going to have 6 sides. And every quartz, if it's not been marred when you harvest it, it's going to have a termination. That's the pyramid. Emerald grows 6-sided pyramid, the Burl family, so that includes Heliodor, aquamarine, okay? They're 6-sided pyramids as well. Some crystals are very mysterious, okay? And I mentioned this one, you know? That's an amazing example of still life. That really, when you find some this is what I kind of feel. When you find anything that has an organized molecular structure, there's what's organizing it? It's a consciousness. It's an awareness. There's a life force with it, moving through it, you know? So here is an example of a quartz that has, you know, a triangular facet going one way, right? But then it got a record keeper on it a record keeper triangle that's inverted. So imagine the molecular complexity in this stone such that it has a facet oriented one way, but then something encoded in it that's going the opposing way. You know? Here's a parallelogram which expressed on the side of a crystal. They call these time links. They say that the parallelograms are, when you find parallelograms on quartz, right, they open up portals in the space-time continuum, right, that energy can move through, right? So if the parallelogram is oriented towards the left of the largest facet, that's a past life time loop. That's a past time loop. If the parallelogram is oriented to the right, then it's a future time orientation, you know? So yeah, that's the end of that portion. I'll open up to like questions, comments, reasoning, and then we do have a next portion. Does anybody have any thing they want to share with them?
I have a question about the, oh, sorry.
Please.
Okay. I have a question about the computers and like, how, do you know how they store the information in the quartz, or how is, I know like Silicon Valley is basically like the quartz energy, and they talk about growing crystals and zero gravity out of space as trying to help the computer go to the next level. Do you know how the quartz actually stores information or
yes.
stores
Well,
frequencies?
you know, in its most elemental form, computer language is binary.
Right.
On and off.
Right.
And organized in bits and bytes.
Right.
Right. So, and let's go back here. So when you have quartz here,
yeah.
Now truth be told, they can't use naturally grown quartz for computers. Because even though like maybe optically the crystal looks perfect, it can like be as clear as glass, right? So to our eyes it'll look perfect, but still growing conditions will have changed at its various parts of growth, and there's going to be slight misalignments of the molecules, right? Such that when they're trying to store the information on it, it's going to create inconsistencies, right? So they grow the crystals that they use in the computer so that they can ensure that the molecular structure that looks like this is perfect, right? And again, there's energy potential in it, all right? And specifically, the energy that's moving through it is that magnetic ion, okay? That life force particle, right? That really is what's electricity. It's the same, you know, it's the ashe, the prana, the chi in us, right? It's the thing that's moving through the copper current. It, you know, the magnetically charged ion, also known as the negative ion. But I don't like to say negative ion because it has a negative connotation.
Yeah, it does.
Right? So, and negative doesn't really describe the energy better than magnetic.
Yeah.
We can vision magnetism, you know? So imagine the presence of that magnetic ion is the binary expression. If that magnetic ion is there, that's on, that's one.
That's one.
If the magnetic ion is not there, it's zero, it's off.
Okay.
And that's what's going on inside of the crystals in the processing of information. And it goes at a rhythm, you know? So really it's like there's a drum being played.
Come on with it.
Inside of the crystal. That's how the ions are being, you know, either they're there or they're not. you know, because there's a rhythm, and that's how they can tell, you know, and that's what your processor speed is. Your processor speed is how fast is that drum being played, and, you know, the ions being on or off, the magnetic ions being on or off. So that's how I would articulate that. All right. I saw this sister's hand, and then we'll come to you. All right, sister? Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to find out, what happens when you have a beautiful quartz and then it breaks? Does it lose any of its essence? Or, I don't know, but I glued it back together.
Yes.
Because I was like, I'm not separating it, so I put it back together. But what happens, like, you know what I mean?
Always a painful experience. Yeah, always a painful experience. But it could be a lot of things. It could be a release of energy for you, especially if it's a crystal that you've done a lot of work with, right? It could be a call to be more attentive, you know, and it could be a sacrifice. It could be an offering. So what I tend to do is just I try to find out what, you know, what is the message, and then more often I gift that somehow. I gift it. I'll like put it in nature or share the shards with someone.
Well, normally I would plant it, you know, in a plant or a tree or something like that. But this time, I just decided to clear it out, right?
Yes.
Put it back together, and then just leave it in the sun. So, I don't know, but it kind of like, you know, it's still just sitting there. But the thing about it is that this crystal, it has like a lot going on. There's just so much in it that maybe I need to learn how to not be, how do you say? What is the word?
Attached.
Attached. So I need to learn how to detach, but.
Yes.
But I feel like it was a sacrifice because it just like fell. And the blues, it just fell and just like that.
It's never easy. Yes, sir. It's never easy.
Yeah, thanks, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sister.
Another question came to mind based on what you were describing about computers. And, you know, naturally there's still potential.
Oh, absolutely.
Energy. Then why is it that they're so harmful?
Excellent
I
question.
understand
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
It's because of the frequency. That same drum beat that we were talking about, right? It's of a frequency that jams up our cellular communication. You know, our cells like to resonate around 8 cycles per second. Okay, roughly 7.8. Okay, and a crystal in its natural state, that's the frequency it's going to hold, about 8 cycles, 8 hertz per second. That's what our cells like. And that's why we need crystals to counterbalance the computers. Because whatever frequency they're vibing at, right, whatever megahertz or gigahertz frequency, it's like our cells, they don't resonate with it. So then they can't communicate properly amongst themselves. And then they forget what to do. You know, so our cells get confused. That's one of the biggest things that the crystals do is they remind our cells what to do. You know? Yes. Yes.
You're putting them around the computer. I have some around the computer.
Around the computer, on us. The organite's really powerful also, which is a crystal technology, but just really creating devices that flood the environment with those magnetic ions. make the magnetic ions so abundant? Because magnetic ions are energy that acts as a antioxidant. Okay? So there's another way to look at it. Crystal energy, organite energy, is energy that acts as an antioxidant. It's going to replenish those magnetic ions. That's what an antioxidant is. It's something that puts, when you take an antioxidant, it's putting magnetic ions back in you. Free radicals are positively charged electrons or electrically charged electrons. And they rob us of our life force. They take magnetic ions from our cells, right?
Because they need one, huh? They need an ion.
That is an actual negative charge because it pulls force. Yeah.
So they computers generate energy that acts as a free radical. The energy robs magnetic ions from us, okay, from our cells. The cell phones, all of that, okay, and crystal, naturally formed crystals, and the organite creates energy that acts as an antioxidant. That's another lens you can look at this thing. Okay? You had a question?
Yeah, when you're talking about the computer technology that they use and how they grow their own crystals, because like the smallest imperfection of some of the natural crystals. I don't know if this is a question. How do you grow crystals?
Excellent question. Crystals grow like plants. They start with a seed. You need a seed crystal, right? So the childhood experiment where you would have a piece of string with a little salt crystal attached to the end, right? Then you'd get a solution of salt water, maybe put some dye in it, right? And suspend the string in the salt water. And as the water would evaporate, the salt doesn't just randomly dry. It organizes itself around that seed crystal. So when you start, what you start with is a little tiny grain of salt. By the time the water evaporates out, you got a giant howlite crystal, which is a big salt crystal. Okay, so that same principle is what happens in creation, right? So now when we look at sand, to our eye, from our scale, sand just looks like grains. But if you were to study sand is really complex. They're like miniature crystals. They are the seed crystals. And when they're in the right environment, heat and pressure, in a silica-rich matrix, right, they're going to act as a seed crystal and go through that same process of growth. All right, and that's one way. But crystals do grow in, to be honest, crystals grow in many different ways. So, for example, the zeolite family, right? Zeolites are zeolite means boiling rock or steaming rock, because these are crystals formed by percolating water, mineral-rich percolating water from volcanic activity, right? So this mineral-rich water gets thrown on top of each other, over X number of years, right? And when the water evaporates, the minerals that were in that water crystallize, But zeolites, the water actually becomes a part of that molecular structure also, So zeolites are actually great for, they are crystals. They are some zeolites are actually edible, right? And they are highly antioxidant, you know? They are like giant magnetic molecules that suck up radiation. Most what do they call it? Most free radicals, positively charged things in the body. They're going to bind with it and help eliminate it. So you can find zeolite in a powdered and liquid form. You know, so that's 2 examples of how crystals are formed. We'll take one more question from the sister, and then we're going to move forward. All right, and we're going to have a next reasoning.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I keep reading about the conditions of people who are actually doing the harvesting of these crystals in the crystal mines, how they're being treated.
Yes.
So when I feel called to buy a crystal, I also feel really conflicted because I don't know where to buy that crystal without it having oppressed someone to get it to me.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that?
That's an excellent question. And the way I circumvent that the best is the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. Really, that's the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, which is the largest gem and mineral event in the world. Occurs like the first 2 to 3 weeks of February. And this is where, right, if I'm just like a humble family from Peru and I want to get my crystals out to the world, I'm going to come to Tucson. You know, Brazil, it's like an international scene. And it's the place where you can kind of avoid the corporate hand and get crystals direct from people that are more like ourselves, you know. And that's really what I do, and that's why I do it that way, you know, to kind of avoid that dynamic. But generally speaking, anything cut and polished and set coming out of like Indonesia, India, maybe Pakistan, yeah, it's probably child and youth labor. Sad to say, a lot of minerals from Congo and Africa might be forced labor, you know. I'm not really sure about Brazil. You know, I've heard mixed things about Brazil, but it is something to be mindful of, you know. And that's probably the best way around it, because you're going to be able to kind of go direct to source as best as possible, you know. Right? So we're going to move to a next part. All right. Get into what's my time check too? Because I could run my mouth, y'all.
It's 5:15.
That's why we here. That's why we
We're
here.
here
Run it.
until 7.
All right.
Here to find out.
All right. So now the eternal question. Right? The eternal question. What stones for what issues? Right? That's, you know, that's what everyone wants to know. What stones for what issues? Right? So, and this is what really rocks the ages is this is like the real intention, is to let your body, you're the living book. You're the living book. So the more you come to know yourself, the more you'll know what stones hold what powers for you, right? So what we, and this is, there's a couple of principles all this is based on. The biggest principle is what they call consubstantiation. We all are made of the same substance. So the copper and those walls that are conducting electricity is the same copper inside of me. There's no difference. And the same thing that copper does, same thing that copper does in the walls, the same thing that it's going to do in me. Okay? The same silica in that computer chip is the same silica in my brain. So the same thing that silica is doing in that computer chip is the same thing the silica is doing in my brain. We all are the same substance. In my body, if I learn the elements in my body and what they do, where they stored, what organs are impacted when I'm deficient in them, in that element, right? And then I know those elements are in the crystals, what crystals they're in. I'm gonna get a lot of insight into the powers that it has, you know. So we're gonna run through it quick. We're gonna run through some of the essential and trace minerals. And just, you know, we're going to do it quick, all right, so that we can have a little more discussion time. All right, and we're going to do this A to Z. All right, we'll start with calcium, which is stored where? In our bones, right? Our skeletal system, beyond just giving us our framework, is really reflective of our posture. We know our posture tells us a lot about our psycho-spiritual state. You know, if I'm like this, right, that says a lot, as opposed to if I'm standing like this. You know what I mean? Our posture reflects a lot. Okay, and it's really our psycho-spiritual state. So calcium stones, they work on that part of ourself. Okay, and that's really our. I kind of look at it almost as our operating system. It's something that's working behind the scenes unconsciously. You know, our paradigms, our belief systems, our worldviews. You know, and how are those things serving me in terms of being able to maintain my life force? That's kind of what the calcium-based stones work with, as reflected by our posture and skeletal health. Okay? Some of those calcium stones: calcite, apophyllite, epidote, labradorite. Carbon. Carbon is, you know, organic life is based around carbon. Carbon is the organizer, right? How we use our energy, use our life force. Carbon. Carbon is that fuel, just like, hydrocarbons and all that's the fuel of, petrochemical world. Same with us. So our cell organization, sugar absorption, protoplasmic function, metabolism, our carbon-based stones address that. Okay? Pneumite, great carbon stone.
The M.
Magnesite, calcite, other great carbon stones, you know. Chlorine. Chlorine is the cleansing element stored in the digestive system, right? So in digestion, right, when we digest something, we're taking it in, we're assimilating it. So digestion is associated with learning our lessons, you know. Do we have indigestion of life lesson? Got to keep going over and over and over again? Or can we get it once and assimilate it and just keep it moving? Chlorine stones help with that. Apatite, halite, sodalite, chlorine stones. Chromium. Chromium is very difficult to find, expressed in the mineral kingdom. Okay? But chromium impacts insulin, glucose balance in the blood. So it's very important. Very important. So when you have the diabetic issues, when you're looking for the sweetness of life, right? We're not fulfilled in life, so we're looking for our fulfillment in yummy cakes, you know, and more yummy cakes, right? We need chromium stones, okay? Copper. Copper is stored most in our body in our sympathetic nervous system, okay? And The issue associated with our sympathetic nervous system the most is stored trauma. How we're in like the post-traumatic times, right? Soldiers got post-traumatic syndrome. Women, it's just like stored trauma is the thing. We store our trauma in the sympathetic nervous system, okay, which is balls of ganglia that run along the sides of the spinal column. Also some ganglia, big nerve bundles that are in the brain, the thalamus, we're going to come to it. The other one is escaping me, the corpus striatum, but it has another name. And we also got a big bundle at our coccyx, right, called the impar. Okay? So this is our sympathetic nervous system. This is where we store our trauma. Okay? So the copper-based stones help us move that stored trauma out. Malachite, chrysocolla, azurite. What's the one you requested? This is how I met the sister.
The one, oh gosh, I can't think of it right now.
Right, the one that has carbon, sulfur,
Yeah.
and copper out of Morocco. Okay, but turquoise. So now, I'll run down the copper family. It's very important. Copper family is one of the more important families for us to be working with in this time. So turquoise is copper sulfate, copper and sulfur. Chrysocolla is copper silicate, copper and silicate. Malachite is copper oxide. It's the purest form of copper ore. Azurite is copper carbonate, copper and carbon. And man, I'm trying to remember this one I just picked up for the sister, because this stone is a room temperature superconductor.
Whoa, what color is it?
It's blue. It's like blue. Is it covalite?
That's it. You get
Covalite.
Covalite.
Covalite. All right. It's copper, carbon, and sulfur. So room temperature superconductor. All right. So these are the stones to help us get the stored trauma out. All right. I got malachite with me. This is one that one stone we tend to try to keep. Fluorine is stored one place in the pineal gland. Okay? So when we get the fluoride, right? Fluoride, anytime we hear an "ide" at the end of the word, what does it mean? Like pesticide, homicide, suicide. When you hear an "ide" at the end of the word, kill.
Genocide.
So genocide. So fluoride in your water and in your toothpaste
Kills your pineal.
this is what's clogging up our pineals, right? Calcifying. It's really fluoriding the pineal gland. Okay. So fluorine. Fluorine is found in fluorite. So that's what we need to, defluoride our pineal and get our pineal proper, Okay? The fluorite is a beautiful crystal. It manifests in a spectrum of colors and shapes. Hydrogen is the most essential elements. It means the water producer, right? The zeolite, hydrogen is found in many crystals, but that zeolite family is the one to really, if you need to work on your water element. The zeolite family, also moonstone. Moonstone works on our water element. Apophyllite is the most commonly known zeolite. Okay, it's a soft stone. Though. Soft stones teach us to be delicate and tactful, handle sensitive situations without causing damage. Okay, that's what the soft stones teach us. Iron, iron is all about our magnetism, the magnetic potential that's in our blood. And the more magnetic potential we have, the more oxygen we'll be able to maintain within our body, the more overall vitality we'll have. Hematite, which means blood stone, like hemoglobin, right? Pyrite, which means firestone. These are big iron stones. These are, you know, our big iron stones, the ones we want to work with, you know. Franklinite is iron and zinc and manganese. I'm going to be back on the east side. We did a tour to the mine where franklinite is harvested because it's more or less tapped out. It's very difficult to get franklinite now unless you, again, go to the source, you know. But this is a very vitalizing crystal. Iron, zinc, manganese. Lithium, when you have schizophrenia, you're prescribed lithium. Why? Because it connects the mind and the heart. Lithium expresses in the purple and pink spectrum. When you find lithium, it's going to be a little bit purple, a little bit pink, a little bit purple, a little bit pink. Connects mind and heart. It helps us be in unity within ourselves. Okay, so lepidolite is the best source of the lithium. Okay? Lepidolite. Yes. Lepidolite. Okay, magnesium. Magnesium is the chlorophyll, as iron is the hemoglobin. Magnesium is the chlorophyll, as iron is the hemoglobin. Magnesium is an alkalizer. When it's in our body, it soothes the nervous system. It makes everything function a little bit better. Okay? It creates the cellular pH for everything to kind of run smooth. If you're having chronic, kind of unexplainable maladies, supplement with magnesium and work with magnesium stones. Okay? So magnesite, a lot of Tibetan quartz. That's a lot of Tibetan quartz. You find quartz out of Tibet that has blackness in it. It's not smoke. It's magnesite. So it's quartz with the magnesium in it. Okay? They're great to work with. Manganese. Manganese is stored one place, the heart. Okay? So manganese increases our capacity to feel, experience, and radiate a love frequency. Okay? That's what manganese is all about. You want to increase your heart resonance, manganese. Okay? And manganese, usually when you find manganese stones, they manifest in the pink spectrum. Okay? Rhodochrosite and rhodonite being the two best examples. Nitrogen is like chromium. It's difficult to find in mineral specimens, you know. Nit is the only one that I'm aware of. Nitrogen is all about our amino compounds. That's what amino means, our nitrogen. So our nitrogen-based hydrocarbons that our cells use to kind of hold everything together. Right? That's what nitrogen deals with. Okay? All of this is in my book too. All right? This is, like I said, you're getting the meat of Rocks of Ages. All right? And again, and hopefully this is inspiring you to learn yourself. You know, re-study what all of these elements do in your body, where they're stored, what organs are impacted by them. Then when you then when you find out what crystals those elements are represented in, you know what those crystals, you become the book to interpret what those crystals are going to do for you. All right? Phosphorus. Phosphorus means the light bearer. All right? There's a part of our brain that's shaped like the tail of a firefly. Right? Now the firefly lights up at night. And when we visualize, like right now, if I say, imagine yourself standing in front of your house, and you'll all do that. You get an image in your mind of you standing in front of your house. What's happening is that part of your brain that is like the tail of a firefly is lighting up like the bulb of a projector. And your brain is sending a magnetic impulse associated with that image in front of that, and it's projected onto the optic nerve of your brain. That's how we visualize. That's how we use our imagination. Are y'all with me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So they say without a vision, what?
People will perish.
The people perish. So when we need clarity of vision, when we need to imagine, when we need to visualize, we want to work with our phosphorus stones. All right? And turquoise, lazulite, apatite, pyromorphite. Okay? Phosphorus is the element the brain uses to think, memorize, visualize, and reason. Phosphorus is the medium through which the light of the soul can shine forth onto the mind. Okay?
Wow.
Potassium. Potassium is like magnesium. It's another alkalizer. Okay? Helps us maintain proper pH balance. And it's a cleanser. Just kind of like the chlorine. Potassium and chlorine are both cleansers. Helps our digestive system eliminate. Okay? Apophyllite, most common source of potassium. Selenium. Selenium is stored one place in the brain. That's the pineal. Okay? And yes, this stone, selenite, probably activates the pineal gland more than any other crystal. So the selenite is the stone of a tranquil mind. When you want an absolutely still mind, the monkey mind is off.
Right now.
The chatter is no chatter. There's no Nicki Minaj song looping through your head because somebody drove by blasting that crap out of their car, you know? All of that, all of them distractions is done, and you just like in a singularity, right? The selenite, okay?
You got one of them right now?
Nah, I don't. Yeah. So I kind of mentioned silica. Silica has a magnetic polarity, and it's a part of our entire nervous system. Okay, you have silica at the tips of nerve synapses to act as the magnetic polarity to induce the nerve impulse, right? Quartz is, you know, the premier silica stone, but silica isn't a lot because I kind of mentioned silica is most abundant element in the crust of the earth, right? But I will also mention this, Alzheimer's, right? Silica molecule, aluminum molecule mirror one another. They're both hexagonal, metallic elements, right? The difference is silica is magnetic. Aluminum is not magnetic. So what happens is when we cook with aluminum and we ingest aluminum, Our body cannot distinguish aluminum from silica, and it metabolizes aluminum as if it was silica. And then that aluminum gets deposited in our nervous system as if it was silica. But aluminum doesn't have magnetic polarity, so it can't induce the nerve impulse. And then our memory fades, and our nervous function is diminished. So that's why we have to avoid aluminum, because it replaces the silica in our body. If you need more silica in the body, horsetail tea. Horsetail tea and lemongrass. Lemongrass tea, excellent sources of silica. Sodium is another alkalizer. This is one of the electrolytes. Sodium is one of the two elements that act as an electrolyte within the body. Okay? It helps liver, spleen, pancreas. Halite, labradorite, tourmaline is where we can find sodium. Sulfur. Sulfur regulates the heat maintenance within the body. When we eat garlic, onion, and pepper, we experience the heat on our tongue. Those are sulfur-rich foods. Okay? The sulfur in our body is the self-cleaning oven mechanism of cells. When we need to eliminate toxins, eliminate something from our cells will burn some sulfur, right? Act as a self-cleaning oven. Usually will happen in our sleep. And then, it can then eliminate it. So pyrite, which means firestone. Iron and sulfur. All right. Also, turquoise. Real turquoise. It's copper sulfide. All right. Zinc. Zinc is very important. DNA, RNA, replication. We need zinc. Reproductive health. We need zinc. Cellular repair. We need zinc. Okay? And I kind of mentioned franklinite, zincite. This is what franklinite looks like. Those are great zinc stones. Okay? How's my time?
We are now at 5:40.
5:40. What time? We into 7?
We're here
Oh,
till
we are
7.
good to go. All right. So let's talk about some other things. All right. All the stones have electromagnetic crystals, have energy potential. We said that, right? So how is that electromagnetic potential of the stone expressed? Some stones are piezoelectric, like quartz. Piezeo means pressure, which means when pressure is applied to quartz, right, it's going to release magnetic ions. Okay? So that pressure can be sound waves, right? So speaking in the quartz is going to activate its energy potential. It can be tensor technology using coiled copper to squeeze the quartz, right? Or it can just be manipulated, right? Some stones have photoelectric potential, meaning when they are exposed to light, they are going to release magnetic electrons, right? Selenite is photoelectric. Solar cells are selenite fused with quartz with copper wires running through. Okay? That's what photocells are. Okay? Some crystals are pyroelectric, meaning heat exposure or heat differential. Either the stone warming up or the stone cooling down. Just the the act of it changing temperature differential, is going to cause it to release magnetic ions. Your tourmaline family is pyroelectric. Okay? So, right, I had teenage daughters who were into the hair fashion. And about a decade ago, I noticed they had the new fancy hair straighteners, right? And they were tourmaline infused, right?
Wow.
So when I brought to their awareness, like, right, so you see they got the crystals built into your hair, I don't know right, hair iron, right? They got the tourmaline built into your hair iron so that the heat causes magnetic ions to come out and bless your hair so your hair doesn't get damaged when the heat is applied. And they was like, oh, okay, Baba, give thanks, you know?
What's hair made out of?
That's a good question. Is it keratin? But that's a good question. Like, what elements are in hair? Yeah, I got to say. Do you know?
Silica, yeah, he knows.
It's silica? Huh.
Yeah, but also stores other elements. Like you can do a hair analysis and find out things that are being expelled from your brain, like aluminum gets stored in your hair if your brain wants to get rid of it.
Wow. Yes, I. Yes, I. All right.
That's a deep one.
And stones can have magnetic potential, right? So many stones, particularly if they got iron in them, are what you would call paramagnetic. Para meaning almost. They're almost magnetic. What a paramagnetic stone would be is a stone that has a magnetic field, right? But it's not ferromagnetic. It's not going to stick like a magnet, okay? So pyrite, hematite, paramagnetic, the Moki marbles, which is a favorite of mine, right? Kind of hard to find. If you find a pair of Mokis, get them and hold on to them, all right? But they're a concretion of sandstone with fossilized hematite called limonite. They're like at least 2 million years old. We're paramagnetic, okay? We have a magnetic field, but we don't stick like magnets. The Earth is paramagnetic. That's why, you can use a compass. The Earth has a magnetic field, but, magnets aren't sticking to it. So subtle magnetic fields, low Gauss magnetic fields are really important for our vitality. I think, one of the paradigms, one of the lenses we said we can look through this thing is how many magnetic ions we have, right? And that kind of being our life force. And the computers and the cell phones acting as free radicals, taking those things from us, right? When I'm depleted in those magnetic ions, my paramagnetic field is impacted. So this is another way to feed that part of us, the paramagnetic stones, okay? Now, and you also want to consider, more often than not, your eyes will tell you how to use the stone. For example, if the stone has terminations, what is that? What can you deduce from that? It has a point at one end. What is that telling us?
Direction.
That's the energy, right? The energy flow is coming out of that termination, right? So if I need to use it in body works or use it as a directional energy tool, I know what that termination, right? Striations or lines. A lot of crystals are striated, right? Determining selenite, kunzite. Again, that's telling me direction flow. Okay? And also the color. You can't go wrong. If you know the chakra system, you don't know nothing else about the crystal. You don't know its name. You don't know the elements that are in it. You don't know nothing about it other than the color that you see. If you know your chakra system, you know more than likely where you can apply that crystal for maximum benefit. Okay? And I know there's different, some have a 7 chakra system, some have a 12. I like an 8 with clear at the crown, purple at the first eye. Throat is multifunctional, so like blues, your light blues, your yellows for the throat, like, you know, because the throat deals with communication, respiration, and digestion. So depending on, and metabolism with the thyroid, you know, that's really digestion. So depending on what's going on with your throat, you might need multiple colors or different colors for the throat, right? Heart tends to be pink, gold, or green. Solar plexus tends to be green, gold. Navel tends to be gold. The sacral chakra is red and ruddy. Then your coccyx, root chakra, is black. Okay? But you have to find what chakra system works and resonates best for you. And go with that. Okay? One other thing I'll mention about the chakras is most people associate endocrine glands with the chakras, right? So like the pineal gland for the crown, the pituitary for the first eye, the thyroid for the throat, the thymus for the heart, you know, on and on, right? When we're working with crystals, I think that endocrines are associated with the chakras, okay? But that our chakras are both input-output centers, right, for energy. The glands are responsible for the output. It's the nerve bundles of the sympathetic and nervous system that are in that area that is the input for the chakras. Okay? So when we are using crystals and we want to work with the chakras to maximize it, we want to work with the input. So we're not going to focus directionally on the endocrine organs. We're not going to focus our attention on the organs as much as that sympathetic nervous system. Those nerve ganglia that run in pairs along the spinal column, right? So, in the brain, we have 2 ganglia. One is called the substantia nigra, or very black ganglia, because these are highly melanated centers of the body. The other is the thalamus, okay, or the cerebral ganglia, also known as the corpus striatum, or the striated body. So the ganglia of the brain really manage a lot of information. When you find striated stones, it's like the bus port on a computer. You know how you got the bus port where there's many, and even kind of like the USB is like that now too. Many wires that are transmitting information in conjunction with one another, right? Striated stones do the same thing. Striated body parts do the same thing, okay? And striated stones work well in this part of the nervous system. So your tourmalines, your kunzites, they really activate the corpus striatum. All right? So we got 3 pairs of ganglion in the throat chakra area, right? In the thoracic area, we got 10 pairs of ganglion that are attached to the heart and solar plexus. In the sacral region, we got 4 pairs. Okay, these deal with our eliminative organs and our sacral, our creative and procreative organs. And then, remember how we said there's pairs running down the spinal column. The 2 circuits are united in our coccyx at the impar. Okay, so when we're working with crystals, we're doing layouts, we're doing body works, we should have something represented on the impart. Okay, that's really going to activate that sympathetic nervous system, and it's going to open up our body to receive the healing. Right? Whereas again, if we focus on the output parts of the chakras, which are the endocrine glands, it's hit or miss. It may be a healing, may not.
Wow.
Y'all with me?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
That's good info. New info.
All right. So, some tips for fine-tuning crystal body works. Right? First thing is, checking the environment. You want to eliminate as much electromagnetic interference as possible, right? So don't have no cell phone in the area, turn off the computer, don't have the TV on the wall right on the other side, Really think out how we're going to eliminate that electromagnetic interference, And of course you want the room clean. As much vibes as you can have in there, sunlight, fountain, running water, sacred sounds, incense, all of that's going to help open the person up to receive the healing, And you definitely want, when you're using stones and body works, right? It's just like a surgeon would not use supplies on one patient and then just go right to a next, right? And cross-contaminate, right? So you don't want to, you don't remove someone's someone was sexually traumatized, and you remove that trauma from them, and then don't clean the crystal, and then work on the next one. What if you, nah. So we definitely have to clean our crystals, and there's no one way to clean crystals. You come up with a system that works for you, but some examples include the smudging, like either with sage, Palo Santo, frankincense, some resin or essence, botanical essence, charging with sunlight or moonlight, placing on the roots of trees, letting, that's one of my favorites.
Wow,
Root of a tree on a full moon,
Wow.
and just let it sit out there overnight, orgone devices and other large crystals, some crystals can clean other crystals because of the energy and the frequency that they hold, or maybe the size that they hold, You yourself chant psalms and prayers. If you hold a crystal and chant a couple of psalms on it, right, your breath will condensate on the crystal. You hold it in front, chant a little bit, and then when you run your finger across it, you're going to feel your breath having condensated on that crystal. So that's like holy water. You can then rub that into your crystal.
Which crystals clean other crystals?
Good question. Like I say, it's like a large quartz cluster, right? Citrine, they say, is a stone that never needs cleansing or charging or clearing, and that it can clean other ones. Also selenite, magnets, okay? Petrified wood, okay? Yeah. Kyanite, yes, thank you. Yes. All right, so also Bach flower essences and flower essences. Flower essences are great, not only for cleaning and charging your crystals, but integrating into the body works, right? So like the Star of Bethlehem, Bach flower ribbon, all about removing trauma, right? So that's the intention of the body works. Drop that flower essence on the crystal while doing the works. Okay, in the American system, Angelica flower essence is really good. Mountain pennyroyal is a powerful cleanser of the crystals. In the Bach system, crabapple is a good cleanser. Okay. Yeah, you should reason, like, you know, unlike massage where you're just going to get up on the table and do your works, right? You should reason with someone if you're intending a crystal healing. So you really kind of have some insight into what they need or what they want, you know?
Was that last slide, the last one, was it salt water? The iodine, is that salt water? Or is that something different? Not stone.
Let me see.
The last one, the last...
Lodestone.
Oh, lodestone. I thought that was
Yes.
okay.
Lodestone. Yes. Yeah. Also, integrated body works. I think crystal body works work best when it's integrated with reflexology, Raseiki, or Reiki. You know, because if there's tension, if they're holding, you're not going to get to the trauma if you can't get past the tension, right? So you got to free up the tension to get to the stored trauma. So other body works that will allow for that, you know? And we should start at the crown, work to the root. When we're finishing up, free up from the root, going back up to the crown. And breath monitoring. So how is the body works being integrated? How are the crystal layouts being integrated? Their breathing is your indicator. If you see them stressed, distressed in their breathing, something's up. Either something's too intense or imbalanced, you know, and ask them, what's up? You know, if they breathe it deeply, if they're asleep snoring, then you know, like, bam, we hit that thing out the ballpark. If they're asleep snoring, you got them. Because there's nothing, they are totally open to receive the healing. The crystals are doing their thing in that other dimension, right? And, you know, you could say that stone-to-skin contact is optimal, but not necessary, you know? So if you do the layout over clothes, it's still good. Yeah, make sure they're hydrated, high-quality water. Yes, sir. Alkaline water, blessed water, you know.
Structured water.
Structured water. Water, just don't run it out the tap.
With the fluoride.
Yeah, so that's it. You know, any other, we can open up to discussion. And then I do have some crystals available. We've got a next sister here. Brother Thor with the sacred geometric crystal garments. And what's your name, sister?
Sister Nirmala.
Nirmala. Yes, the sacred creations. So any other questions? Yes, good brother.
Yes. I have a question about your wand.
Yes.
Break down the mathematics. I see copper.
Yes.
And what is the gray part of it? What is it doing?
Okay. Well, this is a intentional device.
Okay.
That can be used in many ways. One, it can be a directional healing right? Because remember we said quartz is what? What activates?
Pressure.
Pressure, piezoelectric, great. So when I tightly coil copper around the quartz to squeeze it, right? This thing is releasing magnetic ions, right?
Okay.
When I hold it, and what does copper do?
Conduct.
It conducts. So when I hold this copper wand with this energized
energy.
quartz at the end, right? Now, normally we all have an aura, energy
Right,
field,
right.
right? So now normally my aura is just diffusely emanating.
Yeah.
Once I hold this wand, my energy is now in a focused, concentrated energy beam coming off here. So if I need to send some, wake up, my sister, wake up, right? I'm just joking, but
Yeah.
you know, like send some healing energy,
Yeah.
right? I can do that. Let's say I want to visualize. I took some phosphorus, right? And I want to visualize and affirm my reality that I want to live next month. It's the new moon. And I want to take some time to focus my attention and intention on the reality I want to create.
Yes.
If I hold my wand, my energy is going to be concentrated.
Right.
It's going to be focused. Concentration brings intensity. Intensity quickens. Right? So my thing is going to manifest quicker.
Wow,
That's why the
contract.
Magi, that's why the symbol of the Magi, the magician, is what?
A wand.
A wand. And they say, my rod and my staff is what? It is a comfort. Okay? So that's the idea with the wands. Yes.
I just want to say magic and magnetism share the same root.
Absolutely. The mag. You know? Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
And then, I was wondering if you had any information on some of the like I have an understanding that the ancient ships, the ancient chariots, were also using intention put into quartz with the copper, right? And I was wondering if you were seeing any of that technology reemerging. I know there was also a different electromagnetic field in space and energetics that were on the planet at different points in time that allowed some of that type of travel. I was wondering if what's your reasoning around that and the potential to actually to go back into that space again.
Yes, it is happening, you know. But I think there are many people who are like Nikola Tesla of his time that are receiving visions. Right? We are well enough nourished in phosphorus, and our frequency is so close to 7.8 that when we get still, we can receive visions on different technologies. You know, I experienced that, and I know the brother Thor experiences that. You know, so we all should be intending that on some level, allowing ourselves to be the instrument through which the clean technologies, both for healing and energy, right, can come through us and we can transform the society. Yeah.
And following up with that, like, I was working with a sister on, we were working with, tobacco, like a plant, in certain areas where there had been like a shooting and things like that. So I'm really looking at sort of urban healing as well, and any suggestions to actually clear up the grid in different areas to actually seed a new light grid in different spaces that we can do in our urban cities and areas where there's repetition of like the hologram keep playing itself over and over again, and so we can like transmute that and put in the new earth grid
Right. Well, we need to start by gridding our environments. So get crystals, grid your environment, grid your house out, right? Work with the orgonite technology, get orgonite devices for your home and the gift in the community, you know, just like put out in different places, and then inspiring others to replicate.
You know, a vision that I had of the power of the drum and creating that beat in a place that has suffered trauma can be cleared.
Yes, sir.
You said orgonite technology. Could you give us an example of that?
Yeah, orgonite is it's a term coined from Wilhelm Reich that is basically, Wilhelm Reich says that the omniverse is an orgasm.
It's an orgasm.
It's an orgasm, right?
That's how you got
That,
here.
huh?
That's how we all got here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we
That's
all
how,
got it.
exactly.
Orgasm.
Exactly. The
Some of
omniverse.
us, not all of us. No.
All right. So, omniverse is an orgasm, and there is this orgasmic energy spread throughout the omniverse. And if you create conditions where matter of opposite, right? So either a conductive, non-conductive, or metallic, non-metallic, organic, non-organic, right? If you you position that matter in a certain way, it's going to tap into that orgasmic energy. It's going to accumulate that orgasmic energy, or
Like
you
a
know,
black hole or something, huh? Sucks
Yeah.
the negativity.
So these are orgonite devices that's made with organic, non-organic material. The organic material being a resin compound, the non-organic material being metals and crystals, and they usually set them up in such a way that that piezoelectric potential of quartz is activated too. Like the resin, when it hardens, it squeezes the quartz. So these devices flood the environment with magnetic ions.
Wow.
All right? And when you grid these out, it's very transformative for communities. Okay, so there's a whole movement. There's a whole movement around this.
What's it called? You know?
Orgonite.
Orgonite?
Orgonite, yeah. Who's the Don Croft? The guy, the Crofts online, if you
The
want.
Crofts?
Crofts.
What was that site you were
How do you
talking
spell
about?
Crofts.
Don, Cheryl and Don.
Say what?
Don and Cheryl. It's a,
Don Croft, yeah.
Yeah.
They got a book
Cheryl.
called Life Etheric.
One more time.
Life Etheric.
Life theory.
It's a kind of a story of their life, not necessarily factual, but there's a guy in Africa who started to organize Africa.
Non-factual life
This
story.
book has instructions and documented proof of transformation in Africa.
What's the website called, bro? The
Organized Africa.
Organized Africa.
Organized.
I make organize also locally here too, on Etsy, Third Eye Supply. Here's a piece too I want to share. It's
Yes.
a very nice dodecahedron I made here, special garnet, spade crystal. You want to check it out?
Give thanks.
Yes, sir. So yeah, there's a lot. Right, there's a couple of other organite crafters here. So that's what I say is a movement,
It's a movement
that you can
to
become a part
create-
of.
Right. To create these devices, basically.
But in the meanwhile, coiled quartz and just gridding out environments, good start also.
Placing them in different places in the
Exactly.
neighborhood or in the community.
And in your home.
In your
like
home,
a
too.
geometric pattern in your home.
It's like an etheric vacuum cleaner.
And building on ley lines and pre-existing grids and energy movement structures as well. Waterways.
Like you have 6 of them in 6 corners, you're like creating the like quartz symmetry of the hexagonal grid. They all link up and build together.
Sacred geometry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So my sister, then my brethren, then my sister, all right? Yes.
Oh, okay. I have two questions. One, I think you kind of answered about the quartz, that they don't have to be touching your body, but it's better. I wear the, I don't have one today, for, you know, the electromagnetic field.
Yes.
And I have it in a pouch. The pouch is kind of thick, so I often wonder if that's not
Silk pouch is conductive.
silk.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I want.
Or natural fiber. Or natural.
And even if it's not touching your skin, it's in your energy field.
Okay.
You know, visualize, visualize the space around you where your body heat is extending, right? That, and because we know, like, depending on our emotional state, that extension will sometimes be closer, sometimes be greater, right? As long as what you're wearing is in that field, it's impacting. Okay?
And then my other question, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this, bear with me. With respect to, you mentioned about astral traveling and talked about the pineal gland opening up, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm one for natural, like the drumming crystals and what have you. I want to know what your view is, though. Some folks talk about astral traveling, et cetera, and the use of ayahuasca, is that how you say it?
Oh, yeah. Sacred
Yeah.
plants.
And other, what is your view about that?
Well, we have blessings from the mineral kingdom. We have blessings from the plant kingdom, right? We have totems from the animal kingdom. They all have blessings for us that, when used wisely, it is a blessing.
Come on with it.
You know, so, right, I think that's I think intention and wisdom, wise use is the key. Yeah. Yes, my good brother.
Okay, maybe if you have time, if not, another discussion on mounds, and then also anything with prostate cancer, these prostate issues with these crystals.
Well, that franklinite, the zinc is stored in the prostate. So our zinc crystals help the prostate. So zincite is pure zinc ore. It's very rare in nature. Usually zincite is harvested from zinc smelting factories. They clean off the chimneys, and there'll be zinc deposits there, right? So you will probably be able to find zincite online easier than franklinite, right? I regret I don't have any to share, right? So, but I think you'd be able to find zincite online. But franklinite, which is that iron, zinc, and manganese, that is the sure shot. Get it in pairs, so you can have 2 of them, and you wear them as pocket stones every day, you know? And it will definitely help with the prostate. So now, as far as the mounds, right, one of the other projects I'm working on is called Mystic Philadelphia, where we're looking at the mystical dimensions of that city, and one of them is that it was an indigenous spot with a lot of the sacred mounds. And Brother Lionheart had mentioned ley lines,
Yeah, the
right? Ley lines, mounds are usually built on ley lines. So if you want to find the ley lines in your area, find the mounds. And to find the mounds, we usually mounds at this point, certain things are built on top of, like hospitals, golf courses, monuments, war memorials, right? So when you find churches, you know, when you find these things on high points in your area, study it, because it's probably an ancient indigenous mound and there's a ley line connecting it, such that if you find 2 or more of these sites, right, and you plot them on a map, you're going to see an alignment. Okay, so that's the study we're doing in Philadelphia.
Where the ley, you finding the ley lines? You're finding where
Yeah,
they
we
are?
plotted them.
Plotted
We
them
have
out.
plotted them in
Philadelphia
Philly.
experiment.
Yeah, the pyramids are built on all the pyramids are built on the ley lines too, right?
Exactly.
All the ancient pyramids
Exactly.
are on the ley lines.
Especially the nodes where they cross and emanate from.
How close are you in doing the book?
I've made a lot of progress this summer. Yeah, I've made a lot of progress. My daughter is doing the desktop publishing for me. Yeah, so
What's the title of the new book?
Mystic Philadelphia.
Mystic Philadelphia.
Yes.
I had 2 questions I wanted to just have you build on. One was the.
Hold up.
Oh, yeah.
Hold up.
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
cutting in.
I skipped the sister. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions that actually build on what the sister asked about wearing something to protect you from all of the radiation coming at you. Do you have any suggestions on what to wear on our bodies to protect us? And also going back to what we were talking about before about computers and technology, you were saying there are certain crystals you can put next to a computer while you're working to counteract that. So what would you recommend? for
Yes.
that one?
So what I think is the ideal stone to wear for that protection would be the double terminated quartz.
Double terminated.
Okay, so most quartz grows single terminated, right, coming out from its matrix to one point. Some quartz grows in a soft matrix of either clay or sand so that it can terminate on both sides. That's quartz that is like sealed itself, it's completed itself, you know. It's energetically whole. So when we wear double terminated quartz, it kind of does that to our aura. You know, it makes our aura sealed up. These crystals are highly ionic. So they're emitting magnetic ions bidirectionally, you know. And I think they're the premier stone to wear. Double terminated quartz, yeah. As far as having in front of your computer or on your computer, organite is probably the best. But large quartz pieces, large quartz would kind of do the same.
What's
Okay.
considered large?
Iron.
Mhm.
And iron stones.
It's like black tourmaline as well.
Okay. Black tourmaline. Yes, I. Hold, Brother Lionheart, then yourself, okay?
The first thing that's in the book that I would like to hear a little more about is the relationship between silica and melanin and chlorophyll, which was really stimulating. Second thing, being that you have a lot of celestials, the smoky celestials, I'd be interested to go, if you go in a little more on the radiation and the spiritual aspect of that and the coding and what's so special about those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so as far as the chlorophyll, melanin, and quartz, right? There's 3 things. All right, so we know everything in creation is ultimately vibration, right? Ultimately vibration, ultimately energy. So if you have something if you have a material that can manage a lot of different frequencies, right? Or conduct, and when we say manage, either conduct, generate, harmonize, synchronize with, amplify, right? A wide spectrum of energy. That's an important material, right? So there's some materials in nature that's what they do, right? One is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a very important pigment It has the ability to take radiant energy from the sun and transform it into food, not only for the plant, but the ecosystem that it's attached to, you know? And if we are familiar with the works like The Secret Life of Plants, you know,
Yes.
Stevie Wonder's album and
Yeah.
that movie, the
Yeah.
movie Secret Life of Plants, how plants are very psychic. You know, they respond to thoughts, they respond to emotion, they respond to energy. It's the chlorophyll that gives them that ability to take energy and transform it into information. Okay? The other material that can do that is melanin. Melanin is to the human as chlorophyll is to the plant. So melanin is what allows us, when we come into a certain space, you feel certain vibes, right? And your spirit tells you like, all right, this is a safe place to be. The vibes is proper, right? You taking vibes and transforming it into information. That's our melanin, right? The other material that does that is quartz. Chlorophyll is to plant, as melanin is to the human, as quartz is to earth. So this is quartz is the medium through which planet Earth takes information from the sun, planetary systems, transforms it into information, you know. So how is it when we look at like the rainforest, where you got skabillion life forms, and there's like a perfect predator matched up for every, you know, every strata of life. There's a perfect complement of life forms. How is that? What mind, what awareness is organizing that? And through what medium is that organization occurring? That's the level that the crystals work on. And I'll kind of segue that into this other very special kind of crystal, which is the celestial quartz, which are, I feel like angels incarnate in stone. Is there this awareness, intelligence incarnate in stone, you know? And these stones are part of that environmental organization of the planet, you know? And these stones also impact us on our DNA.
What's the name of it?
The celestial quartz. So that's that stone I have with the face. That's this family of crystal. And they impact. It's like the word celestial without the C. Just like cut the C, and then you got the word.
So the smoke.
Yeah, so they say the smoke comes from that life force incarnating into the silica, and you know the act of its life force informing it and encoding it singes the stones.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the lore associated with them. You talk to a geologist, he might say it's percolating water in clay, dehydrating, that's making the, right? Like in his paradigm, he might have a whole other way of explaining, right? So, I don't know, this explanation feels good to me.
What's L?
L? Yeah, like the Elohim, the celestial,
The elevator.
divine presence, yes. You know, that helps us elevate.
Elevate.
Yes,
Elohim.
Yes, sir. I think I saw my brother's hand,
Yeah,
and then we'll come to you, all right?
I was wondering what you felt like the possible effects of elongated exposure to electronic generated lower bass tones is. Like, I heard the young man here say about wanting to change some repetitive like holograms that seem to continue to repeat themselves. And then like the idea of drumming or like natural low tones was brought up, like natural rhythmic, like intentionally orchestrated low tones being brought up as a way of sort of balancing that. So what would your opinion be of the effects of elongated exposure, particularly in a potentially altered conscious state, to electronic?
Yeah, I would think I would think that'd be a deep way to tap the subconscious.
Yes.
You know, and again, I would think it would need to be done with wise mind
Intention.
and wise and innocence of intention.
So let's say that was happening without wise mind in this preemptively and positive intention. What would be your, say, prescription for counteracting some of the residual negative imprints of those types of experiences on individuals?
Well, that's an excellent question. I would focus on if the imbalance was caused by low tones, like deep tones, right? I would focus on root chakra, coccyx, impar, right? So right off the bat, you're talking about obsidians, maybe the pneumite, right? Which is going to help eliminate, like I would see obsidian removing those entrained patterns, eliminating those unwanted patterns. Any patterns that aren't healthfully integrated into the person, obsidian is going to help move it out. So will the pneumite. The pneumite has like kind of an ancestral frequency with it too, you know, letting both familiar and national ancestors heal that root part of yourself. Yes. Hold up, I think, yes.
I was just wondering if you go a little bit more into how the liquid quartz impacts DNA.
The which one, the celestial
the
quartz?
Celestial quartz, I'm sorry, impacts the DNA. You kind of...
Okay, in every cell of our body, we have 3 billion bits of information, okay? The average human has about of those 3 billion bits, there's about 30,000 of them are on and active and informing the cell, informing the person how to live, right? Up until recent, Western science has said those remaining bits of information is junk DNA. It has no purpose. It was the remnants of viruses that infected your cells and deposited information that's just there, right? But recent they had to fess up and say, actually that information is not junk DNA, it's dormant DNA. And certain experiences turn on that DNA that was dormant, right? So what type of experiences is going to turn on your dormant DNA? The celestial experience is going to turn on your dormant DNA. This is a crystal that's encoded with information. Where is your information stored? In your DNA. That's where you're informed, is in your DNA. So when we have the celestial experience, our information is, like the celestials, they download a little something. They activate something. Now, what gets activated? Whatever you need to be on your highest purpose. These celestials, they're on a mission. So I will say this. If you're not willing to be on your highest purpose and do your holy divine mission without delay, without procrastination, right? Don't mess with the celestials. I'm telling you that right now. Don't do it. Okay? Because it's going to create dissonance in your life. It's going to create problems in your life until you get on that purpose. Your life will not be pleasant. And I've seen the celestials mess with people.
Kick their butt.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Up and down the street.
Yes. So that's, but now, now, how does that play itself out? Right? We can visualize a minute. Let's visualize that my brethren's parent was a gifted musician. Right?
Yeah.
Your father was gifted at the guitar.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to be born with the genetic predisposition to be gifted at the guitar.
Right.
But you're going to need certain life experiences to awaken that potential. You're going to need to be introduced to an instrument.
Yes.
You're going to need to have nurturing environment where you like practice and performance is encouraged and affirmed, right? With all of that experience, that genetic potential is going to get activated. But let's say Pops is gifted and you don't get none of those experiences. That potential's in you, but it's dormant.
A gift, a power that's dormant within
the potential's there, but it's dormant. So it's like that.
On that DNA strand.
On that DNA.
On that DNA. You're saying
those 3 billion bits of information. And we're only using about 30,000. All right?
3 billion on that DNA strand.
Yes.
Our current species is only using 30,000.
Yes. So, wow. So all of the gifts, potentials, abilities of all of your ancestors. That's what those 3 billion bits of information is. So now, check this. If your celestial activates 0.00001% of your dormant DNA, you're going to still double how much information you're accessing.
Right. Double your
so I can say it's the celestials that have empowered me to self-publish the book.
Okay. Yeah.
And to do, they're my favorite crystal.
The celestials.
If it was up to me, I wouldn't really deal with nothing else. Yeah. But, I gotta give the people what they want, not always just what they need, So we spread it out, but like that's how serious I am with the celestials. I think they're very, very important.
Can I just make one comment about the DNA? I know recently they discovered that this 97% of the junk DNA holds the same, I forgot the name of the law, but it's the same pattern that every human language incorporates.
Wow.
Where if you rank the frequency that each word is used in a language, there's a mathematical pattern that connects all the languages, and that same pattern is used in the way that the nucleotides relate in the 97% of junk DNA. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yes, I think this brother had his hand first. And
Is smoky and celestial quartz different?
Yes. Okay. Not many celestials are smoked, but not all. You can have citrine celestials. You can have clear. Some places celestials come clear, like Monterey, Mexico. Afghanistan, I've seen clear celestials coming out of there, but most of them tend to be smoked or singed somehow. But you can have a smoky quartz that doesn't have, the key feature of an celestial is the etched patterns. That's the, like our DNA is a binary code, computers talking binary code, celestial's information is a binary code. When you take a highly etched crystal and you move it in the light, it's gonna be, the light's gonna come off like dee 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 dee. That's its expression of its binary code.
So you're saving my notes, right, for me?
Of course.
Better get up there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's probably what was coming in my car when I picked up these boxes.
Yeah.
So the vibe is they have a next event at 7:45, and they wanted us out by 7. I just talked to the manager.
And
when I
what
dipped
time
out.
is it?
It's we got 27 minutes left, and that includes pack up time.
All right.
So what I want to say is like, let's keep it going, but let's get some the business vibe a little bit so people can read
I think we
vibe.
can seal it.
Yeah.
I think we can seal it on that point. You
Yeah.
can come and see what we got because I do want to honor the time. But I thank y'all for coming out. I hope this won't be my last. And I hope this met y'all expectations. Thank y'all so much.
As far as the furtherance, it's a good chance we're going to go get dinner across the street at the vegan spot. Does that sound like something we want to do? So that's a possibility. We'll talk about. Then the one other thing I want to say as far as the community coming together, the brethren come out as like a focal point, you know, as a man who's studied and worked, and you can see the knowledge is precise and pointed and clear. But he's not going to be here all the time, you know. So I just want to say thank you to the community for coming out, everybody who helped promote, Sissy Fadunke for coming together to work on this. We had never met, and here we are bringing the community together. And ideally, we would continue the build and the works, you know, like so many of us are doing the orgonite, crystals, trading, just vibing. And so it's important our community comes together who's on this level and vision. And I just want to thank all y'all for coming. And I think you did get everyone's email and phone to the degree ones want to link up and build. Let's get the build, continue the build, you know. And so the next time he comes, we have a bigger hall, you know. So bless the Lord, give thanks.
You trying to get that? Right. You trying to get that?
I gotta go to the ATM. CB1 one. And see the price.
I think next time I'm gonna put posters on.
So basically, I know, man. So what he's saying, this is gonna be activated. I know you're doing it.
That's the one I'm talking about. I like how it's cool like that.
See, that's what he's saying. He's going to tell you what to do. He's going to tell you.
Should I keep filming this?
30,000 years ago, he was what they call alchemist.